This presentation should serve as an introduction to extended writing in history. Essay writing is arguably one of the most important skills that students will learn in their time with us at Plymouth School studying history. And the core skill behind all extended writing, be it Year 7 to GCSE and onwards, is the PEA, Point Evidence Analysis model. The purpose of this presentation is to introduce students to what a good historical essay should look like. And secondly, for them to be able to understand and recognise the features that make a good historical essay. By the end of this presentation, students should be able to know exactly what the PEA model is, and secondly, they should be able to identify those PEA elements in examples that we will look at. Finally, using the PEA model and their understanding of the progression of skills in history, we want students to be able to identify what parts of PEA relate to which national curriculum levels. When students are writing essays in history, we often refer to two examples of food as models to prompt them to remember how to write. Those two models are the burger and peas. The burger is a metaphor for how we construct an essay, and the peas, well, that refers back to the PEA model, the way in which students should conduct and construct individual paragraphs within their essays. The whole essay that they are going to write should look like a burger. Firstly, the introduction is the top piece of bread, followed by the main paragraphs that make the filling to the burger. Now that burger can be as big as you like, as hungry as you like, as keen as you are to explain a topic in history. And finally, the conclusion should be the final piece of bread that holds everything together. Essentially then, a good historical essay involves the introduction, where students say what they're going to do, the main paragraphs where students do what they said they're going to do, and the conclusion where students say what they have done. Should students ever be stuck on how to start, an introduction can begin with this phrase that in this essay I will. The main part of the essay, the paragraphs, can be started firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally. And in conclusion, students should be urged to summarise what they have said, and most importantly, to express an opinion. Each paragraph within the main part of the essay should contain the PEA elements. Point, evidence, analysis. If we use the example of the Roman army, if we are studying the evidence for why the Roman army was successful, and we have 20, 30 pieces of evidence to explain why the Roman army was good, our first job will be to organise that random set of evidence under several headings to organise things. Now, shall we say that we have 5 pieces of evidence that would suggest that weapons and tactics are one of the reasons why the Roman army was successful. Now, in organising 5 pieces of evidence under one particular heading, we're showing that we have the ability to categorise. We have the ability to think and organise. So our first paragraph will be to do with weapons and tactics. The Roman army was successful because of weapons and tactics. Now, that would be a national curriculum level 3, students showing the ability to organise their knowledge. Now, that will be the first paragraph, the first sentence of our first paragraph. We now need to substantiate that point with some evidence. Now, there's an introductory sentence in itself. Evidence to support this is. Now, students will have studied weapons like the ballista or the scorpion catapult. They've also studied things like the testudo, or the way in which the Roman army fought side by side. All of these are examples of evidence. Now, 1 piece of evidence will be fine. 2 better, 3 better again. Now, many students will conclude a paragraph with just the point and the evidence. Now, that will be limiting because that will enable them only to achieve a national curriculum level 4. To achieve level 5, students need to provide the analysis. And the analysis, in a nutshell, should clearly and explicitly answer the question. I often encourage students to look at the last sentence of any paragraph that they've written. And if they can't tell me what the question is that they are answering from that last particular sentence, then their analysis is not clear enough. Now, as this essay is asking why the Roman army is so successful, one should make it very clear that this made them successful because. And because is an absolutely critical word in history, because anything that comes after the word because must be analysis. It must be the student thinking. The P, the E, and the A creates this self-contained paragraph. A point which shows that the student has categorized their knowledge and their information and organized it. The evidence to show that they can substantiate their point. They can provide examples for what they're talking about. And then finally, with the analysis for National Curriculum Level 5, they have the discipline to answer the question as they're working through their essay. Many students who only provide the P and the E in their paragraphs will often only write the analysis of why the Roman army was successful in the conclusion. Now, obviously, should they run out of time, they won't get to the point where they can actually provide the analysis. Now, this model will work for any essay that the students are requested to do in history. They might be asked, why did the Spanish Armada fail? Why did the Second World War break out? Why did William win the Battle of Hastings? An introduction, a main body, and a conclusion, with each paragraph in between making up the filling of the burger, requiring the P, the E, and the A element. First time round, most students will achieve National Curriculum Level 4. But as we progress in history throughout Plymstock School, we want to do less and less preparatory work reminding them of this model and set them the task to find the information, to organise their evidence, to write the essay without prompting back to these skills. Now, this is the mark scheme for this style of essay. A level 3, as written there on the left, requires only the students to provide the point. Level 4, we show the progress in knowledge. Students have to provide the point and the evidence. Now, obviously, the more evidence the students provide, the better. And at Plymstock, we don't just issue whole levels to reward students' work. We work on the 4.2, 4.5, 4.8, 5, 5.2, 5.5, 5.8. So we have scope within these levels to differentiate between the levels that the students are performing at. A level 5, as you can see, will require students to provide the point, the evidence, and the analysis. So that's our basic progression in written history. As students work their way through Key Stage 3, moving into Year 8, into Year 9, we will add additional expectations that we would require students to include in their work to consolidate their learning and to move on to level 6 and above. We will now go through a couple of examples together. Now students know what required in terms of P and E and A. Can you identify these components in each of these examples? When you see each one, pause this film, take a look at the paragraph, and try and identify whether the P, the E, and the A is present, and if so, what level would you award it? Also, remember, when you're doing this activity, that the job of a teacher is to reward students as best you can for the work that they've provided. It's not a punitive or punishing activity. What I would like you to do is try and justify the highest level for this particular piece of work, but also in addition, try and think about what you should be telling the student who wrote this in order to improve next time. So for example, I believe this piece of work is a level whatever, because of these reasons. To reach the next level, you should provide so on and so forth. Example 1. The Roman army was so successful because they were well disciplined. Evidence to support this comes from the writer Tacitus, who said that the centurion beat his soldiers so often when they trained badly that he was called "Give us another." The good discipline made the Roman army successful because it made the soldier train better as they were afraid of the punishment. Now, as you can see, slightly forgiving there for some spelling mistakes that the student has made. Please look at the mark scheme provided below and identify what level you would give this work and why. Please pause now. Now, we've decided to award this a level 5 because we have identified both P, E and A in this paragraph. Example 2. The Roman army was so successful because of recruitment. The Romans only recruited the best men in their army. Again, please pause this film and study the example. Now, example 2 is considerably shorter than the previous example that we studied, which was a level 5. Now, clearly identified in this piece of work is a point. The Roman army was so successful because of recruitment. Now, that in itself shows that the student has organized and categorized the evidence that they found. The Romans only recruited the best men in their army. Now, that is evidence, but there are no examples to back this up, and it's a very, very basic example. Now, that leaves the dilemma of have they done genuinely enough to achieve a level 4, or have they achieved a level 3? And in this case, we would award this a 3.5. They provide the point, but the evidence, I think, simply isn't good enough. It could have been backed up by an example, it could have been backed up by a quote. Finally, example 3. The Roman army was so successful because they had good tactics and weapons. Evidence of their good tactics is the tortoise to protect them from arrows. They also had javelins and the catapult called a scorpion, which had a sting in its tail. Please pause and analyze this example. Now, in this, again, there is clearly a point, a clear start to this particular paragraph. The army was successful because they had good tactics and weapons. Evidence to support this, well, there's several examples. Good tactics, the tortoise, and various weapons that they used. There is not, however, any clear analysis. The student fails to explain why this led to the Roman army being so successful. Now, therefore, it cannot be issued with a level 5. But clearly, they provide better evidence than the previous example that we ranked as a level 3. So there's plenty of evidence here to suggest that a level 4 has been achieved. And that's why we issued it. Now, you now have the opportunity to write your own PEA paragraph. And it's only practice, so you try to do your best. But the fact of the matter is that should you write a good paragraph and you identify the P, the E and the A, when you undertake your Roman army assessment essay or any future essay in history, you can plan one paragraph and bring that into your lesson and include that. What we want to see is this development of extended writing skills all the way through Key Stage 3 and possibly into Key Stage 4, 5 and onwards. You will only get better through practice, and it takes a long time. Best of luck, and I hope this presentation has been useful.